Hey, this is James from 5 Star Rating 22. Alright guys, here's the last part to the Dark Eldar Harlequin painting video series. On this video we'll go through the basing process, a new basing process, and then at the end you'll get to see the final product with a bunch of pics. So, alright, start out with here. This is the plaster I used from my first weekly challenge when I did the old tower. The leftover plaster mix that I have, I saved that plaster. It works really good for rubble type terrain, for around like buildings that have been war torn and stuff like that, and then also makes really neat looking rubble bases. So what I'm doing here is I'm just picking out some pieces. Flat pieces are really nice, like that have a smooth edge, and I'm breaking them up, then crumbling some down, and then finding some bigger nice flat chunks to be the base, to make up the basic structure of the base that I'm going to be doing here. This is pretty simple now. Since this Harlequin was up in the air, I did this after putting the model on, but if you're doing this on a regular model that's standing on the ground, I would recommend building the base first and then placing the model on top of the built base, so it's standing on top of the rubble instead of being half buried in it. So after I got my big pieces placed on with just regular Elmer's glue, I'm going to take I use an old brush here and making sure to keep the sides clean. I didn't want to get them gritty or anything like that, so I made sure to wipe those off, and then I'm taking glue and putting it right on the base. Now I use quite a bit more glue than I normally would for flocking my bases when doing this. It helps grip the plaster mix a lot better than having it thin, so I used quite a bit more, and then, put some on top and stuff like that. And then I scraped up the stuff that I had crumpled up in some smaller pieces and mid-sized pieces and bigger chunks and stuff, and just kind of dumped it on the base to fill it in. And then just went over it to make sure, that nothing looked way out of place or anything. So, and then I took a couple small pieces and just crushed them in between my fingers and sprinkled it on the base to fill in all the gaps and odd ends and places like that. So I just do that to make sure that the base is all nicely covered. So just took my time. Then you end up with something that looks like that. Now I'm tapping it on the desk just to help everything settle down nicely. So then what I took is a dropper bottle. This is like a needle dropper. Added water and glue. Mixed it up about 10 parts water, 1 part glue, somewhere in there. You can do it even stronger glue. But then I took and just dripped it on top of the base, and this will help settle everything down and help set it in place and help keep it, since it's plaster. If you don't do this, it won't have a very good case. Then I just used an airbrush to blow off all the dust and stuff after I let that dry overnight. So, but you could just blow it off with your, just blow it off, or use a smooth brush to get the dust particles. Then what I'm taking is Battle Black Wash from Games Workshop's Citadel Wash line, and I'm taking a nice soft bristled brush and just kind of doing like pressing it on. Now don't wipe too hard yet, because there still might be spots where it'll want to warp if the plaster gets too wet, but it should be pretty well now after you did that glue mix on top of it. And when doing that glue mix on top, when dropping it on, try to make sure that you don't put so much that it starts oozing over the sides, because otherwise you'll end up with a gritty side of your base. So after I had the wash on, I left that to dry overnight, and then once that was dry, you see there now it's got all the shading and nice definition and stuff. And you could just leave it like that if you wanted to, but I take and dry brush it up. So I'm using a medium dry brush, and I'm using all grays are from Vallejo Game Color line, and the first gray I'm putting on is cold gray. So this is more of an overbrush than a dry brush with the cold gray, concentrating on getting all of the rubble pile, except for the deeper crevices and nooks and crannies that I wanted shaded. So, and this is again more of an overbrush really than a dry brush, and this is with cold gray. So making sure, taking my time, make sure to get all of it. And then the next dry brush that I'm going to do onto it is going to be with Stonewall Gray, and this is going to be a little bit less of an overbrush. This is starting to get more into a dry brushing stage, so taking this, concentrating more on the high parts. And then the last highlight I used was Ghost Gray, again from Vallejo, and I did this just on the very tops in a very light dry brush. So, and what you end up with is something like that. So that works really good for rubble bases. And I just took black from Vallejo Game Color and outlined the edge. I see people who pay a lot for those resin like rubble looking bases, and you can get this right here is relatively similar and a heck of a lot cheaper. So if you're wondering how to mix up that plaster and you just want to let some of it dry in a cup for using it for this, you can go and watch my week 1 challenge with the old tower and look at that, and that'll help you out. So this is the finished model, guys. So this is the video part. There's a bunch of still shots here now at the end that you can look through. I took quite a bit, so hopefully you get a good idea of the end result with this Harlequin painting. I really enjoyed painting this, guys. This was a lot of fun, and with this color scheme, I think it looked really good with about 5 of these, grouped up. It would be a lot of fun to have them fielded, and with the Rubble base, I really liked the final look. So one quick thing I want to talk to you guys about on the latex or spandex, the red clothing. You'll notice that I didn't do any highlights onto it. That's because it had a gloss finish, and when I do a gloss finish, you don't really need to highlight because of the glossiness of it. Even on a small miniature like this, it'll get natural highlighting, and you don't really need to worry about highlighting. It'll actually look out of place if you start highlighting on top of a gloss varnish or with a gloss finished product. So, and there's a base shot there, so you can see that that's the Rubble basing, and I really like that look. It's a lot of fun and really cheap to make, actually. And then there's some of in the inside of a building. Now this model seemed to show up a little bit duller in some of the pics than in real life. In real life it seemed a little bit brighter, which was okay. It's still not so bright that it looks undark eldery, but there, it turned out really well. I liked it a lot. So there was even a dead shot back there for you. So alright guys, hope you enjoyed this. I had a ton of fun making this. You guys all take care. Leave comments, subscribe, and like if you enjoyed this. Tell your friends. Take care, and later.